My grandmother, but we called her Gran, had 10 kids. And as a mother of 3 children, I honestly don't know how she did that. Today, I'm going to talk about family. Family can be complicated. Sometimes you have different political views, sometimes you have different religious views, and sometimes you just don't like each other. Whatever it may be, families can be challenging, but they're also an incredible gift. My grandmother, but we called her Gran, had 10 kids. And as a mother of 3 children, I honestly don't know how she did, but she did. And she was also one of the classiest, most elegant ladies you could ever come across. And she truly, deeply loved her husband. And at the age of 96, she passed away in her home, surrounded by loved ones. And on her bedside table was this statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I was blessed enough to inherit it. And now it sits on my altar table for all of our family to look at and remember her by. And even just the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe now reminds me of her. I think that the three components to a family succeeding together and getting each other to heaven are sacrifice, education, and prayer. St. Gina Beretta Mola is an incredible example of sacrifice. With her fourth child, she refused to have an abortion or a hysterectomy in order to give that child the most success, the most opportunity at having a successful birth, a successful life, even though it meant that her illness would progress. She was able to give birth to her child, but the illness did end up taking her life shortly after giving birth to that child. She is the ultimate example of what a mother is, and a mother is someone who lays down her life for her family. St. Elizabeth Ann Seton is a primary example of prioritizing education in the family. She had 5 children, and after her husband passed away, she entered the convent and she established one of the first Catholic schools. She also became one of the first American to be canonized as a saint. She not only prioritized education for her own children, but also for children in general as a whole. Not just education, but a well-rounded education. And whether you homeschool or you send your kids to school, it is the job of the family to educate the children, and that can take many forms. But Elizabeth Ann Seton is someone who you can look to whenever you're struggling to find strength to educate your children. Saint Monica is actually the patron saint of mothers, and she is an incredible example of prayer in family. She was married to a man who was an atheist. He didn't believe in God or didn't believe in anything really. He was rude, he was cruel to her. And one day, I think he even asked her, "Why are you always so kind to me when I am so rude to you?" And she basically said to him, "Because I love Jesus and this is what he has asked me to do." She didn't respond to his unkindness with unkindness. She responded to his unkindness with mercy and with love for the Lord. And after years of praying for him, before her husband died, he converted. St. Monica also had a son who never really entered into the faith as a youth, and quite the opposite, was living a very earthly life, had mistresses, stole things for the fun of it. He was not following the ways of God. And his mother, St. Monica, continued to pray for him unceasingly, even when all seemed lost. And eventually he did convert, became a saint, and is one of our more primary theologians of all time. So those three women, St. Gianna, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, and St. Monica, are three that you can definitely look to in times of trouble with your families. They understood what it was to go through trouble with their families, and they each used different elements of virtue and of God's love to bring not only their families, but families throughout all time together. There are so many people who look to St. Gianna for comfort whenever they are sick or whenever they're pregnant and facing complications. So many people look to St. Elizabeth Ann Seton when they're struggling with education, and so many people look to St. Monica when they're praying for their children who have fallen away from the faith. They are examples for me. as I continue to struggle through my own motherhood and figuring out how to best raise children in today's world. And I encourage you to look to them as well. My sanity saver for you today is family heirlooms, like the Our Lady of Guadalupe statue that I inherited from my gran. I think those items that we receive that are passed down from generation to generation hold deeper meaning than just any item that we could buy in the store. And I think that's obvious to anyone that something that is handed down has meaning and is comforting and also just establishes a connection throughout the generations within your family. Especially something as particular as an Our Lady of Guadalupe statue or something that symbolizes what keeps your family together. And maybe it's not something so outrightly religious for everybody. Maybe it's a coffee mug that reminds everyone of the kindness that Grandpa had, or maybe it's a quilt that reminds everyone of how generous Mimi was. There's the list could go on. Hold on to those items, and not only hold on to them, don't put them away in a box. Put them out on display for you and your children to see every day as a memory of those family members and what they stood for.